Good evening, everyone. I welcome you to the opening convocation of the academic year. Please remain standing while Scott Dittman, University Registrar, offers an opening reflection. And after we hear from Scott, please be seated and we'll hear from the chamber singers. Scott.
As we begin our time together, I invite you to a thoughtful celebration of the deep journey on which we set out anew this evening. We come today from over 50 countries and nearly every state of the U.S., from many backgrounds and family situations, with vastly different experiences and perspective, and with many preconceptions about the students, about the faculty and staff, about the subjects of our work, our study, and our lives. Some have just set foot on this campus. Some will leave it in less than 9 months. Still others have committed their working lives to this place for years. Together, from these different starting places, we gather in this beautiful place to challenge and sharpen one another, to care for each other, to encourage one another, to a deep integrity in our lives, to a deep commitment to learning with respect, to a deep desire to explore, learn, teach, create, perform, and enjoy in so many ways. We are on a road, our lives changed as the result of our journeys, led by those we have met and studied, to this lawn and these buildings, to build new relationships. We are regularly invited at Washington and Lee to take note of the details of this place, the people approaching us on campus, the integrity of our work, the beauty of this space. Allow me to call attention to one small detail as we begin this new year. Please look with me at the university's coat of arms on your program. We often note the motto there, but today I call your attention to the upper left quadrant. The small words there, omnia autem probate, examine all things, are large in importance for our interactions and the daily work we do. In fact, careful inquiry, investigation, examination, challenging what we experience, and holding on to what is good are central to uncovering the value of our endeavors together. The source of this particular bit of W&L culture was a letter written by Saul, a native of the city of Tarsus in southern Turkey, who had his life and name changed dramatically while making a journey on the road between Damascus and Jerusalem. Just as Paul wrote to his students in the city of Thessaloniki, itself at the intersection of two interstate highways, so we at this crossroads, at the start of a new year, should encourage each other to test all things, seeking what is good and true. Though we have common purpose in being here to think beyond ourselves, we must also recognize that we do not share a common worldview, and in fact disagree in many ways. Though W&L is a comfortable place, it holds no guarantees for either safety or success. But as a community, we can profit from each other in the journey, the questioning and challenge of youth, the knowledge, wisdom, and habits of age, the structure and opportunity of an institution nurtured by those who believe in wide-ranging exploration. We are not here so much to be trained as to be honed. Here less for checking off boxes and more for making connections. As the 16th century Bishop Thomas Bilson appealed, quote, "Let all hearers have both liberty to discern and a charge to beware seducers," unquote. I hope we will be neither overly critical nor overly gullible, learning and practicing both discernment and good judgment. Though our journey toward education will never be a fait accompli, we will take large steps tomorrow by challenging our teachers and ourselves. As lifelong learners all, prove each step of the journey to be worthy of your best efforts.
Oh, praise the Lord. Oh, praise the Praise God in His sanctuary. Praise Him for His wondrous deeds. Praise Him for His mighty greatness. Praise Him with thunders on the trumpet. Praise Him upon the lute and harp. Praise Him with tambourines and dancing. Praise Him with flutes and strings. Praise Him with clash of cymbals. Praise Him with triumphant cymbals. Let everything that breathes praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Oh, praise the
Thank you, chamber singers, and thank you, Scott, as well. When you ask a university registrar to offer opening reflections during orientation week, you're not quite sure what you would get. But Scott, you did very well. We thank you, and we thank you for all that you do for this university. Trustee Emeritus Marion, faculty, staff, students, and friends, it is my honor and privilege to welcome you to our opening convocation. As many of you know, this is one of my presidential duties, to declare formally, officially, solemnly, and publicly the opening of the academic year. But as I've watched the activity increase dramatically these last few days, I'm once again humbly reminded that things proceed just fine without presidential declarations. We are well underway. Law students are well into their classes, and a few of the first years have already asked themselves, what was I possibly thinking? Faculty have prepared their syllabi, or will be doing so this evening or tomorrow evening. Freshmen have met with their advisors and been told countless times that these will be the best days of their lives, but that they will have to work harder than they have ever imagined. Seniors have matriculated, sadly for the last time. In short, for an institution with a foundation as strong as Washington and Lee, with so many accomplished professionals and exceptional students, we know what to do and are eager to begin. A formal declaration seems quite unnecessary. But for a university like Washington and Lee, so steeped in time-honored traditions, so committed to a core set of educational values, so guided by a deep sense of purpose, it is important for us to gather as a community. These occasions remind us why we do what we do, why as a faculty we have chosen a life of the mind, and not just a solitary life of the mind, but one that is shared with students and colleagues. Why as students you have chosen the special place to spend the most special time of your life, and why as staff the arrival of students in late summer reminds us it's not merely a workplace, but a chance to influence a person's life every day we come to campus. To our first-year students who have yet to set foot in a college classroom, this all must seem a little mysterious to you. So much pomp and circumstance, all these robes, the procession, the choral voices. But we are a close academic community, and you will come to appreciate, I hope, these rare times when we gather as one. These rituals are far from meaningless. Quite the contrary, they are full of meaning, expressions of reverence to the values we hold dear and which guide our everyday actions. And our seniors and third-year law students, sitting here for the last time in this collective fashion, as students, as a class, knowing that when you meet later in the year, it will be as graduates, about to enter the world, ready to assume all kinds of commitments best put out of your mind at the moment. It will be bittersweet. Your eagerness to begin your most promising lives and careers, tempered by the farewells to the friends who will remain close to you throughout your lives. As you go about your daily routines this year, pause to reflect on your time here. And remember also that our new students look up to you. They will learn about honor, trust, civility, tolerance, and respect from you, more than from the White Book or any formal activities during orientation. And one final observation before we begin the academic year, mainly for our first years, but really for all of us. In the past, I used to encourage freshmen to remain connected with the world, to not fall victim to the ivory tower fallacy that somehow your life in Lexington is separate from the wider society and its problems. I now want to amend that message and encourage you to sometimes disconnect. The problem of modern life, for all of us, not just students, is that we are caught up in the news of the moment, captured by the information constantly coming at us, constantly available to us, constantly updated. We lose perspective, a sense of the whole. And in this day and age, especially in this day and age, your education should serve no greater purpose than to teach you the value of pursuing a subject in depth, of understanding problems in all their complexity, and appreciating that solutions take patience and persistence, not a quick Google search. Years ago, I used to praise student papers for their bold and ambitious themes that they laid out while criticizing the writers for a lack of evidence or data to support their claims. In recent years, the praise and critique have been turned upside down. Information is no longer the problem, but it is not a substitute for knowledge, and it is far from our ultimate goal, which is to help you achieve wisdom. In the end, you should come to understand that to be engaged with the world effectively, you occasionally need to step back and see the bigger picture. At no other time in your lives will you have a better opportunity to do so than during your next 4 years. The year will unfold quickly, as it always does. The packed calendar of the fall semester that will, as usual, include weekends when we welcome young alumni, parents, and families, and the newest members of our Athletic Hall of Fame. But we will also this fall dedicate the Hillel House that will bring so much to this community on campus and beyond. And we will launch the public phase of an historic and ambitious capital campaign for Washington and Lee. Then it's on to Thanksgiving, exams, the holidays, fancy dress, the usual array of ODAC championships and NCAA appearances, the performances in the Lenfest Center and Wilson Hall, still more exams, and then commencement. Now to the main event of the evening, to hear from one of our own, Patricia Lopes Harris. Pat was born and raised in Hawaii. She graduated from Washington and Lee in 1991 with majors in journalism and political science. She was what we used to call a dorm counselor for freshmen. It's now RA for first-year students. She was editor of the Ringtum Phi. She also is a member of the cross-country team at Washington and Lee. A Rhodes Scholar, she went on to St. Peter's College, Oxford University, where she received a second bachelor's in modern history in 1993. She has been a writer and editor for over 2 decades, mostly for newspapers, including the Honolulu Star Bulletin and the San Jose Mercury News. She is now Media Relations Director for San Jose State University, California. I can say many things about Pat, that she was one of my all-time favorite students, that she had to be dragged kicking and screaming into the Rhodes competition, never imagining that she would be chosen, that she is one of the most sensible and principled individuals I have known. But as the freshmen have heard me say already, what I wish for you at the end of 4 years is that you leave here with equal measures of self-confidence and humility. What I could have said is that I hope you leave here as Pat did. Please join me in welcoming Pat.
"23 years ago, this spring, I visited this campus for the first time. Though I met many people, the 2 I remember best were Dean John and a person we then called Dean Ruscio. I remember their smile, their genuine warmth. They treated me as an equal and with total respect, which I found quite extraordinary, given I was just a kid, thousands upon thousands of miles away from home, scared out of my wits and way out of my league. But at the very same time, I was falling in love with W&L. And as corny as that sounds, that love endures until today. So this past spring, when President Ruscio invited me to Convocation, even though once again he was asking me to travel thousands upon thousands of miles, right away I knew I'd come. That's how much I owe this place. But then I had second thoughts. What could I offer you? I'm not famous. I haven't accomplished much. And now that I'm in PR, I can't even call myself a writer. But I do still have my stories. Now, given that this is the start of a new school year, the natural thing to do would be to offer some advice. The problem is, I don't remember getting much advice. My mother, for instance, just went about her business, and we, my brother, sister, and I, we just learned by watching. Though I do remember her saying one thing: just do your best. I like this advice. No pressure at all. Not perfect, not better than the rest, just your best. This turned out to be a very clever way of putting things because you can always do a little better, work a little harder, run a little faster. It's this kind of thinking that'll drive a person to have not just one major but two, to work not just one job but two, to not just run cross-country but be a dorm counselor and a newspaper editor too. In short, this is how this Rhodes Scholar was made. Just do your best. Where did Mom get this? For many years, my explanation was common sense. But you know, fate works in funny ways. I'm the granddaughter of field workers, people who immigrated from Japan to Hawaii to work in the sugarcane fields. When I left home, I thought there was no going back, but I ended up settling in San Jose, in a neighborhood built by people who immigrated from Japan to California to work in the strawberry fields. San Jose's Japantown has a memorial, a long, smooth gray stone low to the ground, like a gently curved, rough-hewn bench. On one side of the bench, the stone's engraved with an important concept. It's about the common thread, the gift handed down through the generations, the horizontal line from east to west, connecting the past, present, and future. On the other side is a set of traditional Japanese sayings, a set of sayings passed down from parent to child, much like a prayer book. I was scanning the sayings one day, and there it was. Issho kenmei ni shinosai. Just do your best. The top of the memorial features a timeline, and at the timeline center is a defining moment: Japanese-American internment during World War II. Just a few blocks away, San Jose State University recently offered honorary degrees to 150 Japanese Americans whose college careers were disrupted by internment. Keep in mind this generation is very old now. One woman who made it to commencement cut a wide arc as she slowly made her way to the president to pick up her diploma. When I looked in her eyes, gray where they should have been dark brown, I realized she was blind. Another guest, a man, walked pretty much directly to the president, but he couldn't turn around. He couldn't pivot on a point. As I watched him, stumbling, shaking, his diploma slipping through his fingers, I realized he was a stroke victim, partially paralyzed. And I wondered, what gave these people the courage to venture what must have felt like thousands upon thousands of miles across the stage? Lots, probably. But what came to mind for me was their mothers, whispering in their ears, just do your best. Issho kenmei ni shinosai. That day, we awarded many degrees posthumously. One man, there for his aunt, pinned a portrait of her right about here so that she could be with us in spirit. Great idea. A while back, Valerie asked if she could save a few seats here in the front row for my guests. I drew a blank. Who could I bring? My children are in school and my husband's at home with them. Eventually, I realized the two people I really wanted to invite could only be here in spirit. So Mom, Dad, if you're listening from heaven, you've got the best seats in the house, right here next to my heart. So, it's with complete respect for your folks and mine that I offer you some advice that you won't get from your parents. Because college is so expensive, you will be urged to be practical, to declare a major as soon as possible, to whip through all the required courses, to earn a degree that will get you a job, and by all means, to get it done in 4 years or less. Don't do it. Don't do it unless you're sure it's right for you. If you're not sure about any aspect of your time here, remember, the answers to the most difficult questions in life will come to you, but only when you're ready for them. Until then, go for a walk. You'll be following in the footsteps of giants. Jesus, Buddha, Gandhi, Yoda. Yes, Yoda. Remember how long Yoda let Luke wander the galaxy, searching for his true identity? So don't be afraid to leave campus for an hour, a day, a week, a year, however long it takes you to know you're on the right path. Keep in mind, the reason you're here, it's not to get a job. It's to learn how to think, to take something completely apart and put it all back together again in a new and better way. This is how you'll find fulfillment. This is how you'll make the world a better place. And this is how you will earn your living. So seek out professors who make you think, who hold your interest because what they're saying is so compelling, you forget to take notes. In fact, here's something to consider. Instead of sitting in class, writing down every single word your professor says, put down your pencil, close your laptop, and listen. Really listen and think. After all, college is a gift. Not the gift of tuition, books, room and board, but the gift of time to indulge yourself intellectually. Never again will people pay for you to really learn. Now, no serious college speaker should comment on your love life. But come on, we all know love blossoms on a college campus. I'm going to turn to my dad for some help with this. My dad lived in a nursing home during the last few years of his life, and to pass the time, we talk about olden days. Once I asked, "Daddy, why'd you marry Mom?" I expected something glib, but what I got was very sincere. "She was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen," he said. So here's what my dad taught me, and I'm passing on to you. If you're lucky enough to find someone who takes your breath away, and if that someone makes you a better person, hang on to her and treasure her with all your heart. My parents were married 37 years through some pretty tough times. They never stopped admiring each other, and they never stopped needing each other. I did not have the chance to ask my mom the same question. The timing was never right. Maybe because my mom's decision to marry my dad ended any hope she ever had of a normal life. For starters, my mom was Japanese and my dad Portuguese, and they married at a time when mixed marriages were quietly forbidden, even in Hawaii. On top of that, my dad suffered from schizophrenia. So my mom went above and beyond the call of duty under circumstances that most people just cannot take. So why did my mother stick it out? I've spent a lifetime wandering the world, searching for the answer to that question. Last summer, that search took me to Japan, all the way back to the exact same house where my grandmother was born and raised. The house sits on a high road between rice fields, bordered by rolling hills covered with orchards. Everything was jade green and serene. I couldn't help but think, Why would anyone leave this place? One thing I know for sure is my grandmother was literate and at a very high level. She once mentioned to me something she had read in Economist magazine. Keep in mind, she was raised in a remote corner of the country in turn-of-the-century Japan. Even if public education was growing, I'm still willing to bet my great-grandmother fought hard to get her daughter into school and even harder to keep her there. I also know my grandmother was a picture bride, meaning she and her husband met after exchanging photos through a matchmaker, much like Match.com. The only thing is, there was no first date. He was in Hawaii, she was in Japan, and the trip from Japan to Hawaii was so long and so expensive that once she agreed to go, there was no turning back. I found myself thinking through all this one day as I watched my daughter during her piano lesson. She is so tiny, yet she does so much. Rides a horse twice her height, dives into pools well over twice her depth, and plays goalie on her soccer team. Do you have any idea how scary it is to see a whole pack of wild 7-year-old girls flying toward you? So it was through watching my daughter that I began to see the common thread, the gift handed down through the generations, the horizontal line from east to west connecting the past, present, and future. My daughter comes from a long line of determined women who refuse to sit on the sidelines, who willingly journey thousands upon thousands of miles across oceans or through social barriers, not for fame or fortune, but love and adventure. For all of us, there were regrets and rough times, but no turning back. And that is how we moved our family forward. All this is a very long-winded way of saying as you start out in life, on that long walk in search of yourself, you will need to drill down to the truth of who you are and what you're made of, and then build on that. You'll need to find the common thread, the down through the generations, the horizontal line. I'm not talking about fate, but inheritance, for this goes well beyond your family, to your community, and your university. What have you inherited, and how will you move the enterprise forward? I'm a traveler, willing to travel thousands upon thousands of miles, scared out of my wits and way out of my league, but motivated by love and adventure. With this, I brought W&L a Rhodes Scholarship and my children a better life. But who are you? That's what you're here to learn. Follow your heart, take your time, just do your best. Thank you.
You can remain standing. I'm just going to be a minute, but I do want to thank again the chamber singers and a very, very special thank you to Pat for traveling thousands upon thousands of miles for the thoughtful and inspirational remarks. We acknowledge with thanks the generosity of the class of 1942, whose gift supports the opening convocation each year. And a final word to the students. You should know that as you go about your work this year, that Washington and Lee exist for you, that the faculty and staff are incredibly dedicated and talented. Few moments give us greater professional gratification than watching you become interested in an idea. Few things are more rewarding than the conversations we have with you outside the classroom, not just during your time here as students, but afterwards when you graduate and keep in touch. For the first-year students, get to know the faculty, of course, but also the staff. Be mindful of how they make each of your days at Washington and Lee safe, comfortable, and enjoyable. Be mindful and be grateful, and find frequent occasions to express your gratitude. And with that in mind, I thank the dining services staff for the wonderful meal that awaits us on Cannon Green. We are adjourned. Have a great year.